Thank you everyone for joining my dissertation defense presentation. The title of this presentation is Two Enabling Developments for Computational Content Mechanics. My name is Gaurav Chowda. I am a senior PhD student in Department of Mechanical Engineering at Michigan State University. So the overview of this presentation is first, I will provide an introduction where I will give some motivation and the uh, idea of this study. Then after I will discuss about contact algorithm. First, I will discuss about conventional contact algorithm, and then I discuss about algorithm two, the method of first violation, which is developed by me. And then I will provide some brief verification for this contact algorithm. After that, I will talk about two-dimensional circular compliance matrix formulation for elastic disk and hole in an infinite elastic plane. Then after, I will discuss about the effects of elastic decoupling approximation. And finally, I will provide conclusion and future work for this research. So initially with the motivation, we all fly with planes and planes have jet engines. These jet engines are made of uh, blades and hub, and they are connected with the contact joints. So in here, where two surfaces interact, we connect these blades with hub with contact joints. And these type contact joints are fairly available in lot of structure and mostly common in like big structures like satellites. These contact joints provide stability and damping during excessive vibration. Also, they make the performance or their performance in these big structures depend on this frictional contact mechanics. And the contact mechanics of these joints is poorly understood, especially with respect to their effect on the structures. Also, doing experiment on these big structure are often costly and time consuming too. So what people do is like try to do experiments on subsystems such as Brake-Royce beam, which is three bolted lap joint system. Other than that, people do computational mechanics. They try to make structures in computer, try to design CAD structure, and try to do analysis of them. So in this study, I did one of that computational analysis. So in my study, I try to study the interfacial contact mechanics to understand the nonlinearity in these mechanical joints, to predict accurately the interface traction, which is pressure, lateral traction, and other contact parameters during the dynamic loading. Also, we would like to create a test bed that can do a extremely fine discretization to understand the dissipation behavior which happens during the partial slip, and implement multiple friction model to observe the qualitative and quantitative effect on dissipation in contact region. So what are the things we require for that? It brings our research objectives. So we need a more robust contact algorithm that better reflect the governing equation and work well with multiple friction model. Also, the second thing, we require a extremely fine discretization on the contact interface so that we can have very fine resolution in the contact interface to understand the behavior. So here, before going to the detail, let's talk about some contact taxonomy. So if there is a node on a contact surface, let's say if this is the contact surface, 2D contact surface, then there is a node which is going to be in contact or not in contact. That is defined by, like, there are going to be 4 nodal status for each node. So if the node is not in contact, then it will have a not in contact status. If the node is in contact, then it will have 3 different status. One which is stick, where the node is stick and not going to move. One where it may slip in left direction, and one where it may slip in the right direction. Also, this node have states, and these states are 4 contact parameter: normal traction, lateral traction, normal displacement, and lateral or horizontal displacements. So each node status has 2 equality and 2 inequality constraints. And these equality and inequality constraints are depend on the node state of these nodes. So like for a case of not in contact node status, we will have two equality constraints and two inequality constraints. So a converse solution is one where all the elasticity equations are satisfied and all the node states are consistent with the assumed status of that node. The second thing is we are going to solve elasticity metrics with contact constraint. So while solving all the contact problem, I was using this elasticity matrix. Here, the upper part of that matrix is solving the elasticity equations and having the elasticity relation, which is which is formulated using the compliance matrix. And the lower part of the matrix is imposing the contact equality constraints for each status of node. If you want to solve a contact problem, you require that elasticity matrix with a contact algorithm. So if you have both contact algorithm and elasticity matrix, then you can solve a contact problem and find out the corresponding contact parameters such as surface traction and displacement. So here we are going to discuss two contact algorithms. One is conventional contact algorithm and another one is method of first violation. Conventional contact algorithm is discussed to provide context of the second one, and it is based on the contact algorithm of Anand Babar. This is the flowchart of algorithm one. I will not go into detail of that flowchart, but main crux is here. Initially, a load step is selected, and iterative procedure is done for the set of assumed node status and consistent node states that also satisfy the elasticity equation. So by doing this, we try to find out a particular node state and node status that satisfy all the elasticity equation, all the assumed node status. So that would provide us a converse solution. Algorithm one work very well with many contact problems and provide you a pretty good result with them, but it has some limitation. It manifests some non-convergence with cyclic shear loading. Also, changing multiple node status in a load step can result in erratic solution. It shows issues with fully coupled elastic problems. And also, although it provides converse solution, but it may happen that converse solution may not be correct all the time. The second one, algorithm two. So the basic idea start with the discretized elastic contact problem is piecewise linear. So for increase in load from L to L plus delta L, if there is no change in node status, then we can assume the problem as linear. So linear increase in load result in linear increase in contact parameters such as traction and displacement. So for example, if we take alpha, which vary from 0 to 1, and we increase the load from L to L plus alpha delta L, then our contact parameter will also increase proportionally to alpha. So instead of choosing a load step and then resolving multiple node status violation over the load step, we find that particular load step delta L, and that will cause the first node status violation. So for all but one constraint type, the load step can be solved by linear analysis. One thing I would like to point out that this basic idea is floating around in literature for a long time, but here we discovered that idea and tried to implement with contact problems. So the basic idea or basic central idea of this algorithm is like find the highest load step that does not cause the violation, or find the lowest load step that does cause a violation at a node state. So let's say if we select load step to be delta LV for the first violation, then at that particular load step, all constraints are met at the beginning of the load step. By construction, all constraints are satisfied at end of the load step. And because the problem is linear over the load step, all constraints are satisfied at any intermediate load. So here is a one quick one node example. So let's say if we have a node which is not initially in contact, and after applying a load delta L, uh, it's start to interpenetrate. So because the problem is linear, we calculate our violation load step delta LW in such a way that after applying that load step, the node will just start to come into the contact with zero pressure. So in here, all the constraints are satisfied at the start of the load step. All the constraints are satisfied at the end of the load step. And because the problem is linear, we are satisfying all the constraints in the intermediate load. So that brings us a concept of admissible load state, which is one in which all elasticity equations and all equality and inequality constraints are satisfied throughout the load state. So a converse solution may be good, but it may not be admissible. A admissible solution will be which provide you a complete load history, complete contact history. So here's the algorithm to flowchart, but the crux of this algorithm is if a violation happen, if a node state is inconsistent with assumed node status, and also the method of first violation involves solving for that load step that caused the first node to go into the violation. And using that load step, you can find a solution. And then this algorithm is always guaranteed to find this load step and finally to provide a converse solution. So here is a brief comparison between two contact algorithms. So here's a first conventional algorithm which I used, where I put a normal load P, and after adding a delta L naught load step, there are two nodes which are interpenetrating, and I iterate on the same load step, make one node to come into the contact, and then make another node to the come into the contact after another iteration. So that's how the conventional algorithm works. How the method of first violation work is like, first, instead of uh, finding or iterating on the solution, we find the delta L1, which is exact load at which the node just come into the contact. And similarly, we will find the another delta L2 at which other nodes will just come into the contact with zero pressure. So basic idea is conventional algorithm change multiple status of multiple nodes at a single load step. On the other hand, method of first violation find out a new load step at which each violation will satisfy. So after that, I did a verification of contact algorithm. So a compliance matrix is formulated for this verification, where a rigid cylinder is pressed on an elastic half plane. But one can use a stiffness matrix as well. So for this case, we will, for this case, I calculated a compliance matrix, where this part is the compliance matrix, and you multiply it with the normal and lateral traction to get the normal and lateral displacement. We also include the normal forces that we are and equilibrate with the tractions on the contact surface. Also, we added rigid body constant for the forcing we applied. So one thing is important here: if the nodes which are outside the contact region, so in this case, these nodes are outside the contact region, we can ignore them, and so we can also remove the corresponding rows and corresponding columns from the compliance matrix to reduce the complexity of the problem, and that makes the problem a bit smaller. Also, we can implement the Goodman decoupling approximation by setting up this sum matrix to be zero. And Goodman decoupling approximation is necessary to calculate many analytical expression, and this by implementing this in our numerical solution, we was able to compare our analytical expression with our numerical solution with analytical expressions. So here is the first problem, where a rigid cylinder is pressed over elastic half plane, in which in this case we have same numerical pressure as the analytical pressure. That verifies the first thing. After that, I did a frictional contact problem. In this case, I took a coefficient of friction to be 0.3, and for this we calculated. and we get this normal traction and lateral traction, which comes out to be exactly same as the analytical expression. And also we found that because of the coupling, we get a self-equilibrating lateral traction, and if we sum that up, it will come out to be 0. And in this lateral traction, we have three this contact region, which can be divided into three parts. One which is slipping at one edge, and also in the center we have stick region, and on the other edge we have another slip region. So we can calculate the contact region with stick length and total contact length, and we can calculate the stick ratio for any for this contact problem. So after that, I simulated multiple contact problem over a range of friction coefficient and calculated the stick ratios. And these stick ratios comes out to be exactly same for analytical 1, algorithm 1, and algorithm 2, and that verifies that our algorithms are working well. After that, I used a high coefficient of friction with full elastic coupling, and I took the coefficient of friction to be 3, which is very high as compared to the other normal coefficient of friction that we use in the real world. For this case, algorithm 1 provided a erratic solution. Here we can see the traction are showing a zigzag kind of thing, and also we cannot able to find where is the stick slip boundary between this contact. On the other hand, with algorithm 2, we have a smooth solution and with clear stick slip boundary between using lateral traction. Another thing we implement is Dahl friction model. So method of first evaluation was able to provide us a converged solution with Dahl friction model. We did not have any analytical expression to compare with. Also, algorithm 1 would not able to converge for this friction model. So here are the list of the elastic half plane problem, which I use for verifying method of first violation and algorithm 1. So first contact problem is a rigid cylinder pushed over an elastic half plane, where I verify the contact parameter stick ratio and surface traction with 1 parameter Coulomb friction. For this case, we have analytical expression available, and the expression was verified with, the algorithm are verified using this analytical expression. Then I implement 2 parameter Coulomb friction. For that, we did not have analytical expression. Algorithm 1 sometimes converges and sometimes it shows some issues, but algorithm 2 always get converged and provided a solution. For the Dahl friction model, we did not have analytical expression. For this case, algorithm 1 also did not converge, but algorithm 2 provided a converged solution. The second contact problem I did rigid flat punch pushed over an elastic half plane. For this problem, I compared stick ratio and surface traction with 1 parameter Coulomb friction, where the analytical expression was available, and I was able to verify both algorithms using this analytical expression. Another problem which I did is 2-cylinder Midland problem, which I mapped using rigid cylinder pressing on half plane. And for this case, also contact parameters such as stick ratio and surface tractions are compared. And for this case, also we had an available analytical solution, and both algorithms verified for that. After that, I did a 2-cylinder problem with cyclic shear loading with 2 parameter Coulomb friction. So 2 parameter Coulomb friction is Coulomb friction where you have static Coulomb friction coefficient and kinematic coefficient of friction. So for that case, we did not have analytical expression. Algorithm 1 did not able to provide a good convergence for cyclic shear loading, but on the other hand, we get a converged solution for algorithm 2. So summary of the contact algorithm work is both algorithm prediction are in line with analytical expression. Algorithm 1 shows some instability with full elastic coupling, high coefficient of friction, and 2 parameter Coulomb friction and Dahl friction model. Method of first violation shows superior robustness and fidelity with contact history. Important point is all equality and all inequality constraints are satisfied at the start of load step, at the end of every load step, and throughout the load step. That makes the method of first violation to the satisfy all these constraints throughout the loading history. So the contact history predicted by method of first violation is always admissible. Now we will jump to the second section, two-dimensional circular compliance formulation for elastic circular disk and hole in an infinite plane. So we know when we do computational analysis, we have to worry about computational cost for each contact problem. And computational cost for each contact iteration goes as n to the power alpha, where alpha varies from 2.4 to 3. And n is the number of degrees of freedom of the system. So if your number of nodes increases, your number of degrees of freedom increases in the system, and that increases the computational cost of entire system. Also, for the contact analysis, we actually require a very fine mesh near to the contact surface. And mostly the finite element method is the most common approach, but it requires many degrees of freedom inside the body. So for example, if we are pushing two elastic cylinders pressing against each other, then the contact region of 4 degree, if we discretize that contact region of 4 degree with 40 nodes, then it can result in 4,404 node inside the cylinder for a very coarse mesh. So if we have a very fine mesh at the contact surface, let's say 100 nodes in 1 degree of contact patch, then it can require several tens of thousand nodes. The other method is boundary integral method, which also required many more nodes as compared to the contact nodes. So the central idea of compliance formulation is it permits us to drop all the equations associated with the nodes that are not in contact, or otherwise not subject to the load. So for example, we have a compliance matrix, and if we multiply with the traction, we will get a displacement. Let's say we call A refers to a set of nodes that are in contact or in contact region or going to be in contact at some point of time. And B refers to the set of nodes that are not in contact and never going to come into the contact region. So if we set that PB to be 0, then we can remove these corresponding rows and columns from this compliance matrix and reduces the entire size of the compliance matrix and reduces the size of the problem. So this also reduces the size of the matrices, reduces the number of equation of motion, and also reduces the complexity of the problem. So now the question comes up for what kind of geometry we can make this compliance formulation. So one is the elastic half plane, and the second one is a two-dimensional elastic disk or a hole in an elastic infinite plane. So to do that, we need a Michel solution, which is a Yerry stress function for circular bodies. And we can easily calculate corresponding stress and displacement for that solution. Also, to solve for a finite elastic disk, we first need to take this expression of Michel Yerry stress function. First need to remove the secular and multi-value term out of it, and then we can calculate the corresponding stress and displacement for the process. So here is the basic strategy to create a compliance matrix. So first I choose a basis function for traction on the surface of disk or hole, then expand this basis function in Fourier series. On the other side, I identify the Michel expression and traction on the surface associated with that Michel Yerry function. Then I deduce the Michel coefficient by comparing these two series. Then sum up the Michel solution to obtain Fourier series for displacement on the surface, and then evaluate these displacement for all the node, and then identify these displacement as one of the column of compliance matrix. So for example, if we have an elastic disk and we discretized it in very small interval, and we have the contact region of interest, which goes from minus theta to theta. And for this region, we are going to make a compliance matrix. So we apply a unit traction on one of that interval. So if we apply this unit traction on one of the interval of that node, then we can easily get a corresponding displacement for that interval. And due to symmetry of this elastic disk, if we shift this radial traction from one position to next node, then our corresponding displacement also shift. So using that trick, we can easily calculate the displacement field for all the nodes in the contact region. And each displacement field will be a column of a compliance matrix that we can assemble to create a compliance matrix. So here's the compliance matrix where we have three forcing term, P, normal force, lateral force, and M, which is added using by adding 3 rows and 3 columns in this elasticity equation. So this equation I added to equilibrate the forcing term with surface traction. And also we added 3 rigid body constant as we are applying the forces on the body. Important point to be noted here that only nodes in contact are used to formulate the equation of motion and needed to be solved for the contact analysis. So if columns with not in contact node can be discarded for analysis. What it does, it reduces the size of compliance matrix to solve, and it reduces the complexity of the problem. So multiple contact algorithm can be used with this compliance formulation, and you can use it with any kind of contact problem to analyze. Also, in here we implemented the method of first violation for solving contact problems. So here is the one verification problem where initially elastic cylinder is posed on a rigid plane. So for this case, we calculate the numerical pressure and compare it with the analytical expression. Here we choose a very, very fine discretization. We have more than 300 nodes in contact region of like 3 degrees, and that provide a very good amount of resolution for the contact region. After that, what I did is I use multiple contact problem and simulated over the range of friction coefficient. And then after I calculate the stick ratio and compare the stick ratio with analytical and numerical expressions.
Now, Gaurav, this would be a good time to point out that that first table that was shown had to do with, the table you showed us earlier had to do with rigid bodies pressed against elastic half planes, whereas problems shown here have to do with elastic disks.
Oh, yes, yes. So one thing to point out here is previously we were using the rigid cylinder over elastic half plane because we can, in literature, it was the compliance formulation for elastic half plane was available. So we used that. And in here, we developed a compliance formulation for elastic disk and hole. So what I did is I used the similar problem. In here, I changed the elasticity part of the material to cylinder or disk, where I make the cylinder to be elastic and the plane to be rigid. The analytical expression for both cases remains same. So that's why we are finding the similar kind of analytical expression, similar results. So here is the list of contact problems.
May I ask a quick question?
Can you repeat it?
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
You've mentioned the word stick ratio a bunch of times, but I don't know if I saw a definition. Could you tell me what it means?
Oh, yes. So like, let me go back to the one of the slide so that I can explain that. Yeah. So when we press down the cylinder, we will get a region of contact. In that region of contact, we will have some nodes which are slipping in the left direction. We will have some nodes which are slipping in the right direction. And we will have nodes which are going to be stuck together in between that contact. So first, so first we will calculate the stick length, and then we take the ratio of the stick length with contact length. Thank you. Okay, so I was here. So I conducted a list of contact problems for verification of elastic disk or hole compliance matrix. Initially, for the elastic cylinder, I compare the contact parameters such as stick ratio and surface traction with one parameter Coulomb friction, where we have the analytical expression available, and I verified the compliance formulation with our numerical simulation. After that, I conducted a surface traction with two parameter Coulomb friction. For this case, we did not have analytical expression, but we able to get the converse solution using method of first violation. Also, the good part of this compliance formulation is that if we find the traction on the surface, we can use this traction to calculate stresses and displacement inside the circular elastic disk or in the hole, and we use that analysis to find the stresses inside the body. For this case, we have few available analytical expression, and I verified with these analytical expression. Now, the second problem I conducted where a rigid cylinder is pushed inside the hole in an infinite elastic plane. For this case, I had I compared contact parameter, stick ratio, and surface traction with Coulomb friction. For this case, we have analytical expression available, which help us to verify the numerical simulations. The other problem which I did, two cylinder Minlin problem and compared the contact parameter, stick ratio, and surface traction. Again, we had the available analytical expression, which I verified. Another thing which I did, two cylinder problem with cyclic shear loading and with two parameter Coulomb friction. For this case, we did not had an analytical expression, but using method of first violation, we was able to get a converse solution quick and clear.
Now,
So
Gaurav, could you tell us roughly how many nodes were in the contact regions in these analyses?
So usually I took like in this case, I took around more than 300 nodes in the 3 degree of contact. So, but we can always take more than 500 or 600 nodes in 1 degree of contact if it is required. Although 100 nodes in 1 degree provide a good amount of resolution to do any contact analysis.
And that's where this compliance formulation is so important. We can put all of our degrees of freedom where we want them.
Yes. So in summary, only degrees of freedom on or near the contact surface are incorporated in the problem. That drastically reduce the size of numerical system, allow us to solve very few equations, and reduces the complexity of the contact problem. Also, this strategy facilitates extremely fine meshing over the contact patch, as it is necessary to simulate the elastic contact and also provide you a very fine resolution in the contact surface to analyze. So now the third section is effect of elastic decoupling approximation. So effect of elastic decoupling approximation. So elastic decoupling approximation are fairly used to solve complex contact problem, because as we implement this decoupling approximation, the level of complexity of problem reduces, and we will able to solve for the contact problem. So two well-known decoupling approximation are quite famous. First one is Goodman decoupling, where normal displacement resulting from lateral tractions are negligible compared to the normal displacement resulting from normal traction. So in this case, we have a compliance matrix, and we try to set this this coupling matrix to be 0, and that implement our Goodman decoupling approximation. For the full decoupling approximation, we have normal displacement, and lateral displacement results only from the normal force and lateral force. So if one want to implement that full decoupling, then the one can just remove these two sum matrices which are coupling radial traction with tangential traction, and radial traction with tangential displacement, and vice versa. So multiple contact problems are simulated using these decoupling approximation along with a full elastic coupling, and contact parameters such as surface traction, stick ratio, and steady state energy dissipation are measured and compared both qualitatively and quantitatively. So for conducting the problem, 5 different contact geometries are designed to simulate multiple contact problem over a range of friction coefficient, which vary from 0.05 to 1, and also lateral force ratio, which vary from 0.05 to 0.99. K is the mean curvature of two contact bodies, which is used as identifier for the 5 contact geometries. So in first case, a rigid indenter of almost same radius is placed inside a elastic circular hole. In the second one, a rigid indenter of half of its radius is placed inside elastic circular hole. In third case, an elastic cylinder is placed on the rigid half plane. And after that, an elastic cylinder of radius r is placed over the rigid cylinder of half of its radius. And then an elastic cylinder of radius r is placed over a rigid cylinder of radius r. So one thing to point out here is that all the geometries which I formulated is formulated using 2-dimensional compliance formulation, which I created previously, and using circular hole and circular cylinders allow us to do this simulation quick and easy to make a very fine resolution between. So initially comparing surface traction. So in here, a rigid cylinder is placed inside the circular hole. For this case, we compared the full coupling problem with Goodman decoupling approximation, full decoupling approximation. So as we apply the normal force, we get a normal traction and lateral traction. We get a self-equilibrating lateral traction because of the coupling, Poisson's elastic coupling. And the similar thing can be seen in for the Goodman decoupling approximation, where we get the traction here. And in full decoupling case, we did not get any lateral traction as we are only implementing the normal force. There is almost same shape for the fully coupled problem and Goodman coupled problem for both lateral traction. And in normal traction, there is a very small difference between full coupling and Goodman decoupling. After that, we applied a lateral force on the rigid cylinder, and that brings us change in the shape of lateral traction changes. Now we will have a lateral traction. If we sum that up, it will be equivalent to the lateral load. And the same things can be seen for the Goodman decoupling approximation. For the full decoupling approximation, lateral traction comes out to be the symmetric. In case of normal traction, because we have full elastic coupling, our normal traction also change the shape. On the other hand, in case of Goodman and fully decoupled problem, we did not see any change in the normal traction. So for this case, I use almost 100 nodes in 1 degree of contact region, which is fair enough to analyze the contact simulation and provided a good amount of resolution. Another important point is that contact region is shifted as we applied the normal load for the full coupling problem, and it does not happen for the Goodman decoupling or full decoupling problem. So this shows us a qualitative difference between two decoupling along with when we compare with the full coupling analysis. Another point is that one can use more than 500 nodes even in that 1 degree of contact arc using the compliance formulation which I showed, and it will be sufficiently quick.
Gaurav, I think you misspoke a moment ago. Could you go back to that previous? Okay. The contact patch and the fully coupled problem shifts when applying the shear load as opposed to the normal load.
Oh, yes, it is when we apply the shear load.
Yes. It's easy to mistake these things.
After that, I measured the error in surface traction at steady state. So lateral force is applied cyclically, varying from -q to q. And after 2 cycles, the steady state is reached, and we calculate the L1 error in surface traction using this formulation. So for the first case, we plotted error in normal traction with respect against the normalized lateral force ratio. And we know the normal traction for Goodman decoupling comes out to be the same as full decoupling. So we plotted just for the Goodman decoupling approximation. And for this case, all 5 geometry comes out to be the same same normal traction, even surface traction. And as we increase the lateral force ratio, our error increases. The second one is error in lateral traction. And for this case, the error comes out to be different for Goodman decoupling and full decoupling, but error for each coupling comes out to be same with all 5 geometries. So in Goodman case, initially the lateral traction error start from somewhere near 0 and reach a fixed value at maximum lateral force ratio. And in full decoupling, it starts with somewhere about 100% and reach a fixed value. It starts with 100% because initially when we apply any force, it doesn't have any lateral traction there. And this fixed value we are reaching because full coupling is always provide a shift in contact, which is not provided by the shift in contact which is not provided by decoupling approximations. Then comparing steady state dissipation. So steady state dissipation values which are calculated for each geometry comes out to be different for each geometry. However, if we non-dimensionalize these dissipation value, it comes out to be the same. So for full coupling case, I plotted the normalized dissipation value with respect to lateral force ratio. And for all 5 geometry, it comes out to be the same and nearly linear. For the normalized dissipation, I divide the dissipation with A, which is one of the material property, and P square, which is the square of the normal force we apply on the body. So another thing which I calculate, one more point is here, the similar kind of curve can be seen for both Goodman decoupling approximation and full decoupling. And also one interesting thing comes out to be that dissipation calculated using Goodman decoupling comes out to be equivalent to the full decoupling approximation. So what I did, I took a ratio of that one of the decoupling approximation dissipation. So with the full coupling, so this dissipation ratio we calculated and plotted against the normalized lateral force. It comes out to be that dissipation calculated from the decoupling approximations are the over prediction as compared to the full coupling. For this case, it comes out to be at least 20%. Again, the similar plots for normalized dissipation is plotted with for multiple friction coefficients, and it comes out to be same for all 5 geometry and nearly linear. And when we plotted the dissipation ratio, we find that the dissipation comes provided by the decoupling approximations are over prediction at least by 15%, and it varies with different friction coefficient and lateral force ratio. So in summary of effect of decoupling approximations, first Goodman decoupling approximation, it shows surprisingly good result in capturing the shape of lateral traction and stick ratio. Also shows some serious, however, it shows some serious error in predicting dissipation and surface tractions. It does not predict the shift of contact region, which is important for the tribological analysis. On the other side, for full decoupling approximation, it did not predict the reasonable lateral traction, and however, it is no worse than the Goodman decoupling in estimating the dissipation and normal traction, but it shows serious error both qualitatively and quantitatively when we compared with the full elastic coupling. So finally, the conclusions. So a novel contact algorithm is showed here, which manifests appropriate path dependence and remain robust on employing multiple friction models. 2D compliance matrix formulation is designed for solid elastic disk and holes in an infinite plane, which reduces the complexity of numerical simulation and makes detailed interface resolution so that we can easily implement very fine discretization in contact problem. The third point is these two developments make possible a robust test bed to analyze contact behavior in two-dimensional contact problem. And finally, the effect of decoupling approximation are measured and calculated using this test bed, and both qualitative and quantitative ramification are analyzed to understand the severity of decoupling approximation. In future work, we have few possible research extension for this current work. First one is develop a similar compliance matrix for annular disk or CAMs. Employ other friction model on this test bed and correlate with numerical result of experimental result of contact joints. Then develop a formulation that can connect finite element approach with compliance formulation of elastic bodies with circular contact profiles such as CAMs or gears. And then implement this extremely fine mesh for hydrodynamic lubricant contact problem to conduct contact analysis on contact problems such as rotating shafts, also roller bearings or ball bearings. So here are the published work. The first one is under preparation. Others are either submitted or published. So finally, I would like to thank to my advisor, Professor Siegelman. He provided a very good mentorship to me, and I learned a lot from him and hope to learn a lot even after graduation. I would like to thank committee members, Professor Feeney, Professor Pence, Professor Kao, and Professor Barber to provide their insightful suggestions during my doctoral research. Also, I would like to thank Dr. Rechtenberg, Professor Colbury, Professor Tai, Professor Matt Brake from Rice University, Professor Matt Allen and his research group from University of Wisconsin for their help and support during my doctoral research. I like to thank National Science Foundation, College of Engineering, and Department of Mechanical Engineering for funding my doctoral research at Michigan State University. And I thank my lab colleague Aisha, Fatima, Akash, Jun, and Jamal to make lab environmental fun and enjoying and make it conducive to research. Finally, I would like to acknowledge my friends and family, my parents, my sister and brother-in-law, my friends at Michigan State University, my Salsa family here, and all my friends and family, and special thanks to my friends Pratap and Anuj. And finally, thank you everyone for listening this presentation. And now I can have your questions.